Good afternoon, class. This is Michael Huey, and today I will be presenting to y'all a case study on the U.S. Army switching over to a new 6.8 millimeter ammunition. I'm reporting to y'all today from thunderstorm and sunny Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. Okay, so for a background on my case study, this back the case study itself is based off of a brand new contract that the Army released at the beginning of this year, but has gone through several renditions, and the last one stated the companies it chose. Now, the name of this contract is the Prototype Project Opportunity Notice for the Next Generation Squad Weapon. The three companies that are involved in this contract are the Sig Sauer Firearms Manufacturing Company, General Dynamics, who is partnered with True Velocity. General Dynamics is a large defense contractor. They make ships, airplanes, satellite systems, missile systems. True Velocity is a smaller ammunition manufacturing company out of Texas, and together they have joined to make a joint venture for this contract. The third company is Textron, who may have the most radical design that we will be looking at later in the presentation. This contract is actually based on a new generation of squad weapons that are proposed to replace the long-standing M4A1 rifle and the M249 belt-fed light machine gun. Both of these weapon platforms are the predominant platforms in a U.S. Army squad, an infantry squad. This contract has an objective that the awarded company will be producing 85,986 units within the first year of being awarded the company. That is just the first segment of units they need. There will be many more time frames in which they'll have to deliver more units. Now, the largest and what I feel is the most important aspect of this contract, which is what the focus of this case study is that it is a requirement by the government, the Department of Defense at that they want the caliber of the next generation of squad weapons to be in a 6.8 millimeter. This is a big change. As of right now, our current squad weapons, the M4A1 and the M249, actually use a 5.56 NATO. There is a larger caliber also in circulation, but that is for our medium machine guns, and it is a 7.62 NATO. The government actually wants this 6.8 to replace both of these current calibers. From years of testing, they have found that it has superior ballistics, which means the data that it can prove for range and energy. At the bottom, you see we have a little timeline. As I said, this project was initiated this year. It was first released in March, and we've had a first and second rendition of the initial throughout the year, with the last one being in October. So now the three companies, Sig Sauer, General Dynamics with True Velocity, and Textron, now have 3 years to get their equipment through testing and then be prepared for the selection process of who will be getting the award. The proposed implementation risk, that's the risk that I'm focusing on. And the implementation that I'm talking about is I want to look at both the upside and downside of the 6.8 millimeter polymer cased ammunition. Two of the companies will be releasing polymer cased ammunition, one will not. Sig Sauer is not releasing polymer case. They will be doing the standard brass case, but both General Dynamics with Textron, General Dynamics with True Velocity and Textron will both be releasing polymer cased ammunition. The risk factors I've chosen for this case study are the mission critical components, logistics of moving ammunition, compatibility of the ammunition with current equipment, production of the ammunition, and cost. When we're looking at the mission critical components, the first and most important aspect of ammunition for it to fit the needs of the mission is that it has to be effective for both long and short range engagements. The reason I say this is because from Iraq to Afghanistan, we've had two entirely different range scenarios. Iraq was city urban combat, which is very close quarters, and then Afghanistan has been out in the mountains, which has been incredibly long. So the Army needs a caliber that can fulfill both needs of a soldier. So when we're looking at the comparison in the upper left-hand corner, we can see that top green line is representative of the 6.8. The bottom light gray is the current 5.56, which is what is in our M4A1 and M249. Now, when we look at this, we see that the 6.8 actually carries with it 38% more energy. Now, we can see this in the graph when we look at distances from the 50-yard mark with it's about a 350 foot-pounds difference between the two, and then at the 300-yard mark, we're actually looking at almost a 400 foot-pound difference. Now that's pretty significant on the battlefield, especially when the government refers to lethality. Now I know that word sounds dark, but in the constraints and context of combat, lethality in ammunition is incredibly important. Primarily the ability to defeat body armor, because our potential adversaries of the United States are producing body armor that is able to withstand that of a 5.56. So it is very important for the Army to have ammunition that can overpower that body armor. Now, another final very important component is stability of the ammunition itself. Now, with polymer ammunition, the government has you could say some concerns with stability, because brass is known to react well with chemicals. It does not have a bad reaction if overheated, like if it's kept in a storage container in the desert. So what needs to be done in testing and proven with data is the ability that the polymer case ammunition reacts, one, well with any kind of chemical interaction, and two, if the heat sustained in combat zones, such as a desert, would have any effect on ignition of polymer. Another problem area that we see in the M249 light machine guns is their belt-fed machine guns, and they tend to fire a lot of rounds really fast in order to provide cover for our troops. Well, the problem with that is I actually used to serve, and there's this thing called cook-off, and the polymer manufacturers must provide that the polymer will not cook off. That means that the chamber is so hot that it will actually cause ammunition to fire without the operator ever pulling the trigger. So a very important point there. Another factor that is incredibly important when we're looking at the decision of this and risks involved are the transportation of the ammunition. As of right now, because brass case ammunition is so incredibly heavy, that the only way that we can move it to a theater of war or conflict zone is via sea lift. That is the image on the left of the vessel on the ocean. That is a Navy vessel, actually a frigate, which is designed to ship and transport ammunition and other goods to and from continental U.S. to a conflict zone. But on the right, we have an image of an airlift. Right now, it is too heavy for brass case ammunition to actually be flown. I would like to say that I was not able to find a data point showing the effect of the burdensome weight compared to fuel consumption. And at that, I was trying to find the cost difference between the fuel used in our ships to our jet fuel and aircrafts. I wasn't able to find those data points, but I felt that they would have helped a ton, especially when being the big government looking at the big picture of which caliber do I want to choose, and do I want the polymer or do I want the brass? Next, we have compatibility with current equipment. As you can see on the right, we have an image of ammunition. The first ammunition on the far left is the standard casing. It's very similar to what we use right now in our 5.56. That is a brass cased ammunition. Next to it, you have a white and black one. That is a polymer cased. So it's actually plastic. It uses plastic and metal in the casing itself, but it's predominantly plastic. Third, on the far right, is Textron's proposal, which is the telescoped cased ammunition. Very radical design. The problem with it is not compatible with our current lineup whatsoever, which is represented in the image on the left. Those are all the weapons used in a current rifle squad kit. So the first two, the standard casing and the polymer casing, both carry very similar dimensions and operations, so that basically our current lineup, if needed, could be retrofit with a barrel and bolt to make it capable to fire polymer case ammunition. The telescope case ammunition requires an entirely new operating system and barrel, therefore making it incompatible with any of our current equipment. Definitely a factor that must be taken into consideration by the DoD. For production and cost, first off, production for the U.S. Army is done at the Lake City facility, which is our ammunition plant. And the table on the right shows the needs of our Army as requirements and what they're actually able to produce there. You can see that, with the exception of 50 caliber linked ammunition, that we need more for our troops than what is actually being produced at the Lake City facility. Now, the problem is, for polymer ammunition, it requires an entirely different process. It is not machined like brass. It is actually going to either be injected or printed. So none of the equipment we have right now can actually make polymer-based ammunition. Two, if we were to convert this facility over, the cost would be exponential, but we actually cannot do that because, being that how the government is, especially in the military, something is just never brought in and everything else is dropped. The polymer ammunition would have to be phased in, meaning we still must maintain production of the 5.56 and 7.62 to fit the needs of the soldiers with the equipment in theater right now. So the only true option is that we'll see in the influence chart is that the manufacturers bidding the ammunition will actually have to provide capabilities of ammunition manufacturing. I say this because, like I said, Lake City is not able to do it. I was not able to find any data points on the actual cost of the manufacturing of the polymer ammunition, which was a disappointment. I was curious because I feel that polymer compared to metal should be cheaper, and I would have loved to have seen the data points on that. Hopefully in the coming years we should get some more information on that. Last, on the influence diagram, it looks a little crazy, but there's a reason behind that, because we are talking about the government. And so we have the three companies, 6 Hour, General Dynamics with True Velocity, and Textron. They all must meet the testing, which is our unknowns, because we don't know how they're going to do in Army testing phase 1. We don't know what their production capabilities are yet. None of them have disclosed the weight of their ammo, and none of them have gone to Army testing phase 2 yet. So, being that this is a brand new project, the only thing they know is they have to meet a certain production cost for the government, and they must provide a certain amount of units in order to fulfill the contract. That is actually probably the most important determinant factor that is known right now, is the units needed, what they actually must produce to fulfill the contract. Now, that being said, these all relate to the mission requirement of the contract itself. So we're still going to be waiting on the Army testing phase 1, which will then actually break down the production capabilities and the ammo weight. But because this is a brand new contract and every company is playing it close to the cuff, we don't have much information yet. Much is still up for speculation, but this isn't a developing project and there's more to come. I hope y'all enjoyed my project. Have a great one. I miss it back there in the US. Have a good morning.